An interesting thing you learn from taking initial Alexander technique lessons, or in my case giving them as well, is that there are certain, seemingly simple actions that are kind of impossible for most people to do. While we may be very capable of making gestures that comport with our habits of movement, if we are asked to make movements that go against our habits, we will find that many of those movements are extremely difficult. The example we will look at today is of placing a stick underneath your armpit. Here are the parameters of the gesture. You want to hold the stick like a sword. Do not change your grip. Make sure there's only about 15 inches of stick above your hand. Turn the stick back towards yourself and place it under the armpit of the same arm that you have the stick in. Do not raise your elbow above the height of your armpit. This may sound simple, and it is, but very, very few people can do this without some training. Most people will lift their elbow massively to make this gesture. Others will, without even thinking, change their grip. If you grab the top end of the stick with your hand, you can guide it and make this gesture much easier, which shows that it can be done, but without that extra help, it is genuinely difficult. When Masoero first asked me to do this in a lesson, I grabbed the end of the stick to guide it, as it seemed impossible to do otherwise. Give this gesture a try and see for yourself. If you'd like, record yourself with a webcam as you do it. You may be surprised by what you see. The natural question is, why is this so hard? The answer is that this gesture demands that you extend your arm a very significant amount. Most people, because of their habits, have shortened the muscles that go from their arm into their upper back. So this gesture is sometimes genuinely impossible for people at first. Now I would say athletic people in some cases will be able to do this, but typically their first inclination would be to lift the elbow massively. And if they do make the gesture according to the parameters, they will feel a genuine stretch in their arm. If you're in poor postural shape or have issues with your arm to begin with, it's quite likely that this gesture will not be doable. What I found so interesting about this when I was first shown is that I would never really have known that such a gesture, that seems like it should be well within one's range of motion, could be so hard. And many things in initial Alexander technique lessons are like this. Movements that seem relatively easy prove to not just be challenging, but seriously tiring. Small adjustments to the pelvis or rib cage, which produce a visible but relatively small change in the body, can be as tiring as doing a dozen pull-ups. People go and work out, lifting heavy weights, and they build muscle and strength, no question. But still, even for these people, simple adjustments to the body can be daunting and tiring, and the lengthening that is gained in initial Alexander technique lessons is not gained through conventional exercises. My point being that what you learn in initial Alexander technique lessons is something that's kind of hidden from us in our day-to-day life, but is made stark by simple gestures like this. Most of us, even the athletic among us, have serious blind spots when it comes to our own bodies. But the good news is, you don't have to stay blind. By understanding the directions of movement that will create lengthening and widening of the back, and ultimately extension of the arms, you can make a gesture like this relatively easily. It will take time for those with real postural issues to get this kind of extension of the arm, but not as much time as you might think after trying this for the first time. The directions for making this gesture aren't really different from the general directions we use. You need to orchestrate the movement back and up of the lower ribs and forward and up of the upper torso. You need to direct the tip of the elbow out and down, and you need to inhibit the movement of the upper arm in or up. If you're curious to learn more about your body and to find and overcome these limitations that may be holding you back without you even knowing, try out a few lessons in the initial Alexander technique. For more information, feel free to visit my website, mechanicsofpoise.com, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section and I'll respond.